We are live now on YouTube in Grade 1906, and you're tuning in. And I have with us here on an abbreviated version. I think, as a matter of fact, I think what we're going to do this time with YouTube, we're going to just go ahead and go through it. We normally have two sections, but we have 45 minutes, a clear 40 minutes of content. We may cut it down to 2. But this is what we're here today. We're here today to talk about politics in Dallas County. Politics in Dallas County. And I have with me right now Miss Nicole Raphiel. She's running for Desoto City Council, place 3. And if you know anything about me on Inside Texas Politics, where you can catch me at 9 on 8, 9 on 8, I talk about politics, how it is reflected in all of North Texas. And DeSoto is a bedroom community that exists in southwest Dallas County. They call it the southern sector. That's a euphemism, folks. That's where they say blacks live at, browns live at. But when they talk about DeSoto, they have to take in consideration that the largest per capita income for any county with black folk in it is right there in DeSoto, Texas. Glad to have you here.
Thank you, Mr. Gray.
Thank you, thank you. Well, you're here on this show. What do you think about it so far?
I love it. I love it. I love
Good, good, good. We've had a couple of challenges, if you will, but we're able to go past those challenges because, well, this is what it's about. In politics, there's a lot of challenges, and I understand that you're running for re-election.
Re-election, yes, in DeSoto. So it's place 3. This past year, I ran for an unexpired term. The previous Councilwoman, Deshandra Lockhart-Jones, ran for the state Rep 109 position. And so when she stepped down to run for that seat, I stepped up to run for this seat. And so I actually ran in 2013 was the first time that I actually ran for the seat. I did not win that time, but this time I did. And I won by 5.
You won by how many votes?
5.
5,000?
No.
5. Like Mama used to say, count to how old are you? 5?
Yes, 5.
5 votes. So that means that every vote counts.
It does.
Well, DeSoto, Texas. Are you from DeSoto?
Dallas, born and raised, Dallas County. Started out in South Oak Cliff, grew up in...
You're Golden Bear, huh?
Yeah, Golden Bear. Grew up in Pleasant Grove.
Okay.
Went from Pleasant Grove, and then in my 20s, moved into Oak Lawn. From Oak Lawn, made our way as a family, migrated to DeSoto, and been in DeSoto for 21 years now.
You like it? 21 years.
21 years.
Because you've been moving before that, 21 years. You're planted in DeSoto.
I'm planted in DeSoto, 10 minutes away from church.
What do you attend church in?
Oak Cliff Bible Fellowship.
Okay.
Yes. 27 years.
27 years?
Yes.
So you like to have things well-grounded?
I do. Yes, indeed.
Now, your family, tell me about your family.
Okay. So I have 3 children. I have a 27-year-old, I have a 25-year-old, and I have a 22-year-old. And they are my pride and joy, and they are living life.
Young men, women, or
2 boys and a girl. 2 young men and a young woman.
Well, we can say that when they're ours, they'll always be our boys and girls, but to other people, they're young men and young women.
Yes.
Why would you want to run for office?
Okay, so in 2013, I stepped up to run after seeing years and years of just some decisions I didn't agree with in the city of DeSoto, some economic decisions I did not agree with. And so at that time, it was out of, I would say, fear of not making right decisions or good decisions moving forward. And so I believe it was in 2009 or 2010 when the city invested in a building that was a spec building that ended up becoming a church. Nothing wrong with churches, but it was tax dollars going into a building that ultimately became a non-tax paying entity. And so we never did get any retail or any industry out of that building, but just the process of watching the process of the council making that decision and city manager, I just did not agree with.
Was that the church that's on Hampton Road?
It is.
Okay.
It is. So the city built that building.
That was a city built building.
Yes.
And it cost the taxpayers a great deal of money.
It did.
You have the exact totals on that?
I don't have the exact totals, but at that time, I was homeschooling my own children at that time, working in our family business at that time. And so I just did not have the wherewithal, the energy, or the time to run. But once time allowed, as the kids grew up and life changed, I decided to step up in 2013. And so in 2013, when I did run, I did lose that race. And that was because I wasn't aware of some other sub-issues that were going on in our community. And so from that race, what I did learn was to embed and to really engage our community, all aspects of our community. And so this past year, that's what I've done. Since I've stepped into the seat, since January 20th, I hit the ground running. I volunteered quite a bit throughout the years of living in Desoto, from Desoto Dining and Dialogue, from being on our charter review committee.
Explain about dining and dialogue.
Okay. So when you come to DeSoto, when you make your way down 35 and Pleasant Run, you'll see a large statue, and you'll see this big flag shaped up a little differently. You'll see 2006. So in 2006, DeSoto won the distinction of All-American City. So when we hear our mayor say, "I live in the All-American City," that's the reference that we won. We won it as a result of some dynamics in our city, including, at that time, our racial diversity and the ability to come together to speak. So DeSoto Dining and Dialogue was built off of a concept that the city of Dallas has, or that started in Dallas, which was the Dallas dinner tables, where you have people of different races coming together to talk about race and things in their city. Well, now today, the numbers have changed. We're 60 or 68% African American, and so the dialogue now yields itself to things of economic development, issues about our school, just what we can do better in our community. So it's a community dialogue, and it's when groups of people, dinner tables of about 10 or so, when they come together and just talk about the issues that are in our community. So it's a way to kind of keep us together, helping one neighbor know another neighbor, and to expand some ideas.
So where's the dinner table?
The dinner tables. So with DeSoto Dining Dialogue, people volunteer their homes as a host.
Oh, so it's in people's homes.
It is.
So it's not in a big fancy restaurant.
It's not. It's not. It's not. It's neighborhood conversations.
How many people normally show up?
Just about 8 to 10 people per household. There are typically anywhere between 10 and 15 households. So just about around 150 people come together to have these conversations. And they now have the dinners about once a quarter. And so at different times, whatever the highlights are in that quarter, that's the center of the questioning.
Now, what was it the last time that you went to dinner, so to speak?
The last conversation were about our schools. So the superintendent was a part of that one. Now that one was a corporate DeSoto Dining and Dialogue, because they did have the superintendent, which is our new superintendent. And so neighbors came out.
What happened to your old one?
All right. Well, he was uninvited to the district, or he was released from his duties. Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in DeSoto, is there a discourse between the school district and the city?
There's not a discourse between the two. However, there could be more cohesiveness between the two. In previous years, there have been some joint meetings, but in recent history, given all that has been going on with the district, that hasn't happened. However, our city does seek to support our school district, and it does need to continue.
Can you be an effective person for that?
I think so. Our schools are so important. Right now in our city, our school districts are going through some challenges, and with those challenges, it does affect the city. And so, we can't run away and say, hey, that's not my problem. It's all our problem. And so, part of what I would like to do is to make certain that those opportunities for us to have conversations are real conversations, not mutual agreements, but real conversations on what is needed, what needs to be done. For instance, I am the liaison for our Park Development Corporation in the city. I was the former chair of that board.
Now, what is the Park Development Corporation?
All right. So they receive a tax. You have your 4A4B tax. They receive a portion of the tax dollars to help pay for our parks department. Okay. And so that particular board, they're responsible for overseeing the dollars that are spent and on new programming and such, as well as coming up with ideas from the community, what the community wants. And so our Parks and Rec director, she takes that information and then makes that thing happen. And so with that department, I think it's one of the best. That one as well as the Arts Commission, and I'm the liaison for that one as well.
So you're the one that's responsible for the concerts that happen?
I'm not the one responsible for the concerts, but I'm one of the people responsible for that whole conversation. And so we give the input as far as what we want to see move forward. So we have, in DeSoto, we have several boards. We have our park board, we have our arts commission board, there's a finance committee, we have our Keep DeSoto Beautiful. And so the list really goes on. There's a lot of ways that you can engage within the city. But as it relates to just going back to the whole city and school, right across from one of our schools, we have a new nature preserve coming in to that area. And so with that nature preserve coming in, you have a school, you have a nature preserve. You know, how many children in our neighborhood, you know, in our demographic understand what that is and the value of that? So as a city, what can we do? As a city, well, the land was donated years ago. A bond election was passed so that now this nature preserve can come to fruition. But the addition that we can do as a city, now this is me, and this is part of my education background coming out with my own kids as a homeschool mom, it is to come up with a curriculum that we can have for that nature preserve housed inside of our library. Where families can go, hey, get this curriculum, whether it's learning what different leaves look like and things like that. So I used to homeschool, so that was part of my life. And, you know, just everything, a good lesson plan, you know, could take you. And so, you know, we can use our libraries, we can use teachers from the district, we can come together to have this wraparound. So when the kids leave their schools, now, okay, you know, I went to the library, oh, what did I discover? Oh, we have a nature preserve. Oh, you know, what type of nocturnal animals are here? You know, what's here in this space? You know, so that's the city being thoughtful and mindful, you know, not just having a space, but, you know, being thoughtful and mindful with the young people who are in our community. So I think it's really important that the city and the schools, the school district do come together. Now.
So is it a part now? The school district, is it a part now from the city?
Is it a part?
Right. I mean, is it a part of normally they work together in tandem. So are they working in tandem now?
So in tandem, not in tandem. We're not working in tandem yet. You know, but we do strive to support one another.
Okay. Okay, now you mentioned economic development.
Mm-hmm.
If you're reelected, what can you do to enhance economic development?
All right. So over this past year, having, you know, gone through this year, there was a lot of observation. So I did take the time to like kind of really dig into the different areas of my interest, one being economic development. I did attend a international shopping centers convention with our EDC department so that I can have the experience of understanding what it takes to go out to get that business to come into our city.
Now, folks, that's economic development. I don't know what the C stands for.
I'm sorry. Our EDC stands for Economic Development Corporation.
All right.
So now, our city is comprised of our city staff. Okay, economic development has its own department. That is totally separate from the city. So they have their own board, they have their own CEO. So when people get angry, they call the city and ask their city council person, why don't we have certain things? Well, it's actually our Economic Development Corporation. They're responsible for that. So the two are separate, albeit together.
Now, if you're on the EDC, you're appointed by the city council, correct?
You're appointed by the city council. That in that board, then thereby they are the ones to hire their CEO.
Now, is there a success rate tied to that in DeSoto?
So,
With the EDC?
success rate?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Could it be better? It can be.
How can we?
I think we need to have a plan tied to retail development. Right now, we're doing great as far as our industrial park. Our area, along with areas in the southern sector, is deemed the international. What is it? The Inland Port International Project.
Right.
And so with that, we've gotten we have the opportunity to have warehouses and things like that. So we have our fair share of warehouses in the city of DeSoto. It feels that way. It feels like too many at this point.
Because if I'm traveling on 35 and I'm going through DeSoto, when I get to Barrow Creek, first thing I see is a liquor store. That introduces me to Glen Heights. I know I'm in Glen Heights. There's a liquor store.
Yeah.
So now, once you get past the liquor store, you get some development, and then as you go out of the city, you end up seeing the
warehouses.
It's the warehouse district.
Right. So, I would definitely have to say that in terms of masterminding and planning for our area, I think that's a lost opportunity that we in the Best Southwest have had. However, for those that decided that that area was great for warehousing and such, that has flourished in our area. So now we have to deal with that. Okay, so on one hand, we have the office space, not the office space, but the warehouse space. We need to fill those. So our EDC, they're doing a great job with filling those. And oftentimes, a lot of those projects come through the state, not things that we have to go out and get. So I would say that that's the low-hanging fruit, because that's the thing that's easy to see. The part that's harder is our retail development. That's what's really hard, given the perception of our community, okay? Given the per capita income of our community for some retailers, or what they say, given the number of people who live in our community, okay? And so as far as the different retailers who say, or developments who say that they want to be in our community, they're looking at numbers. Now, once we get past the numbers, it's the perception. So having the opportunity to go to this international shopping centers conference where different companies were there, from Starbucks to exercise gyms and things like that. I went to Corner Bakery, and the first thing out of her mouth when I said I was from Desoto and was about to give her our material so that she could see what our specs look like, the first thing out of that representative's mouth was, that's a blue-collar community, and our segment is a white-collar community. She didn't look at our numbers. She didn't look at the per capita income. I'm talking about trying to put a space something along 35. She wasn't even considering traffic count. So that tells me that we're redlined. Okay, so being redlined as a community is really harsh, but it doesn't come in the way that it did years ago. So growing up Dallas, I remember when people in South Dallas worked real hard to just get a grocery store, to just get a bank in one Martin Luther King. I remember how hard they worked for that. And in a sense, part of my passion, having lived through that as a child and as a teenager, I don't want that to happen to my community. But it appears that has happened in my community. And so, as far as things that I would do, I really do believe that we need a plan. So I will push for we have a comprehensive plan. And our comprehensive plan talks about redevelopment along the Hampton corridor. And that is happening. Our city manager and his team is doing a great job in making that happen. However, we need a plan of implementation of what that looks like. So instead of having the one-offs of bringing in, recently, the most recent project has been our Dunkin' Donut. And the Madden Twins, you may be familiar with them. They're a part of that project, the development company.
Right.
And so, great, amazing, awesome. But having a plan coming up along the corridor, I think, is really important. So whether we think about it in terms of a medical district, if we think about it in terms of an arts district, but us having a plan, but more importantly, a plan of implementation, because we have to do something different than what we're doing to get the results that we want. And the results that we want is the basics that people want: a nice place to sit down and eat. That's what people want in our community. They want places to shop instead of driving to Cedar Hill. They're tired of driving to North Dallas. However, a lot of dollars are leaving outside of our city. And so one of the things I want to also propose is that we get actual numbers, actual hard numbers and we can do it through our cell phones. Companies are collecting our information, our data all the time. And so just as we can get information about, where this phone has been going, okay, so everyone who lives in 75115, where are those people going? And there are companies out there to do that. And so I want to get that information so we can make intelligent decisions on who we actually go after. So we can say that we have, over, this many thousands of people going to the North Park area, or going in certain areas, or going to certain stores. If we can even pinpoint it to that point, okay, now we need to go after those stores. And then those developers, we need to think differently about the developers. So there's a particular developer in our community who's not a good neighbor. They're just not. A big management firm, they do things all over the Metroplex. I was literally in that conference where I heard one of the principal people from this management firm say to hundreds of brokers, only 3 people in the room were African American and I was one, say that for your lower performing properties, don't worry about those, because that's your laundry money. Focus on your higher end properties. And so for that person to say that to those people, to perpetuate the idea that certain communities are not worth it or certain properties are not worth it, you know, that was a hard hit. That was a hard blow. But now we have to deal with that. So if you don't even believe in the community that you are a developer and you're in my community and you won't even work with my city, you know, it's time for those type of developers to leave and to get out and to allow those who want to be in our community to be there.
So when we come back after this break, we will talk about well, you and the developers. You seem to be standing strong with the community as opposed to the developers. I don't know whether or not the developers gonna like that. If you were there again, we will be right back on YouTube. Catch us on YouTube, Ed Gray 1906, and also on Twitter, Ed Gray 1906. We will be right back.
This is Ed Gray of the Commits Radio Show. You can catch us now on Wednesdays, 5